The Chief Executive Officer, Economic Associates, Dr. Oyo Teriba, joins me on the program. Dr. Teriba, this has been tagged the budget of renewed hope and is the very first this administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will be presenting before the National Assembly. What is the high point for you?
Thank you very much for inviting me. Good evening. Right. Finally, the president and his team have put before the representatives of Nigerians, the National Assembly, the first sketches of what they are proposing to spend in 2024, and how they are proposing to fund it. And the encouraging, part of the conversation is that they are speaking to the major issues of concern that has led to the failure of the previous budgets, about the need to borrow less, about the need to harness the country's assets, offering opportunity to domestic investors, to foreign investors, and to project financiers to come and partner with government rather than trying to fund the capital projects directly, from government coffers. And the conscious effort to cut back on proposed borrowing, making hefty allocations, to areas of concerns about the well-being of Nigerians, the safety and security of Nigerians, come as welcome developments.
Indeed, Dr. Teriba.
So the right notes are being struck, right things are being said. It remains to be seen, after the Senate might have deliberated on it, what will be finally approved. And we then hope that they will walk the talk, that now that they're saying the right thing, that they will actually go on and deliver the right things.
Well, that is very critical. And the president has urged the National Assembly to speedily consider that document and ensure it is passed before the 1st of January 2024, to maintain the January to December cycle. But let's talk about some of the specifics of this document. It's a budget of 27.5 trillion naira that, an increase from the 21.8 trillion naira that the National Assembly approved for 2023. And of course, that was before the supplementary request that President Tinubu made recently. And oil price is set at $77.96 per barrel, unlike what we had for 2023, which was 75 cents, $75 rather per barrel. So what do you make of this? Do you consider that would actually have enough to attend to the needs of Nigerians in the coming year?
Right. The bulk of the projected revenue is coming from non-oil sources. So the oil price assumption is not particularly crucial for the realizability of the revenue proposals. And it's one thing to plan to spend 27 trillion. It's another thing to remind ourselves that we didn't exactly spend the 21 trillion that we had budgeted last year, or the final increased amount after the supplementary budgets. We had a shortfall in spending that of 31% as of September. So we realized about 1/4 of our spending desires as of September. If that's the run rate for the year, it does mean that we will be doing, say, 70% of that budget, originally appropriated, and the supplementary budgets, 71%. So if we deliver on 71% of the 27 trillion that is now being proposed, it would not have been, a bad attempt. But a more effort should be made to push harder on the spending side. We underperform not only in spending, but we underperformed. When we cut the spending, we cut the capital budgets the most, in 2023 up to September. If that's how we end the year, then there is, a need to try and brace up and ensure, that more funding is obtained, particularly from non-governmental sources, to make sure that we reduce the gap, in the spending shortfall, and that capital spending doesn't end up to be the most, affected, by the spending shortfall.
All right, Dr. Teriba. Well, based on Mr. President's presentation earlier today, non-debt recurrent in this document is 9.92 trillion naira. Debt service is to be for 8.25 trillion naira, and capital expenditure 8.7 trillion naira. Are you concerned, or are you disturbed or worried about debt burden and the fact that we are still going to borrow some more, because this budget has a deficit which will be financed by new borrowings totaling about 7.83 trillion naira?
Well, at this stage, the concern is not about whether government, the borrowing. You can say you want to run deficit close to 9 trillion. Last year, we were unable to run the size of deficit that we have aspired for this year to run. As of September, we had only borrowed half as much as we had intended to do, up to September. So that accounted for the shortfall in spending. So I'm not too optimistic, that the borrowing headroom is there for 8 trillion or more for 2024. So that's not much to worry about. The borrowing headroom abroad is slim as it could be. The bond markets are effectively closed to Nigeria for now, the Euro bonds and the rest. So we are only hoping to count on the generosity of multilateral agencies and maybe some bilateral, loans and perhaps some securitization deals that it can broker. So I'm not worried, about the proposed deficit. We may not, have a deficit that is, that large, because the debt doors, are indeed closing, if not closed, whether domestically or internationally.
All right, and talking about
the investment door.
Yes, I was going to talk about the exchange rate.
The debt service, the debt service has more to do not with new borrowing, but with the level of the existing borrowing. You're already close to 100 trillion in total debt. And debt rates are higher than they were last year, and most likely will be higher next year than they are this year. So I'm still worried that debt payment, we exceeded it slightly this year in the budget. We are still likely to exceed what we are projecting for next year, given the sheer size of the budget and the levels of interest. Even if we don't borrow more, it's an issue. So the quicker we can begin to raise equity, actually to replace some of the existing stock of debt, the better for us. You were talking about exchange rate.
Yes, I was going to talk about that, but I'm afraid we may not even be able to get into that now. Perhaps some other time we could bring it up. 750 naira is what has been projected. Last year it was 435 naira 37 kobo. Perhaps we can talk about it some other time. Dr. Oyo Teriba, CEO, Economic Associates, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
We'll take a moment and we'll return on Beyond 100 Days with more. Stay Stay with us. The crisis between the governor of Ondo State, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, and his deputy, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has continued despite the intervention from the president. Speaker of the Ondo State House of Assembly, Olamide Oladiji, has warned against violating the resolutions of President Bola Tinubu's meeting with the members of the House of Assembly and other stakeholders over the lingering political crisis in the state. The speaker, who read the resolutions before his colleagues, skipped the aspect where the deputy governor was asked to write an undated resignation letter and submit it to the president, written in his speech. Mr. Oladiji warned all the gladiators and stakeholders against violating the resolutions of the meeting.
That all parties shall embrace peace. That status quo be maintained by all parties. 3. That all impeachment proceedings be terminated forthwith. And all court cases withdrawn by all parties. 4. That there will be no dissolution of the state executive council. 5. That the party leadership and the structure remain intact. That the House of Assembly leadership remain intact. That Honorable Lucky Aiyedatiwa to continue to perform the function of the office as deputy governor. That the 3 enforcers, including the state chairman of the APC and training, the speaker of Oyo State House of Assembly, my humble self, Right Honorable Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the secretary to the Oyo State government, Princess Tetri Oladunde, were appointed to monitor compliance with the foregoing resolution.
Still in Ondo State, commercial motorcyclists and tricyclists in Akure, the state capital, have staged a solidarity rally in support of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. At the rally staged at the governor's office, Akure, they expressed displeasure over alleged move against Governor Akeredolu, despite intervention by President Tinubu. We have details in this report.
These are representatives of commercial motorcyclists and tricyclists in Akure, the Ondo State capital. They converge on the governor's office in Alagbaka, Akure, the state capital, in solidarity for Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. They expressed displeasure over alleged move by some elements in the state to sack Governor Rotimi Akeredolu from office, despite intervention by President Bola Tinubu in the political crisis in the state. They also described Governor Akeredolu as a lover of the masses and one whose leadership achievements remain unmatched in the state.
He wants us to say what is in our mind, to address the people, to make us to know what is in our mind, and our mind is that the government, the present government, will love it.
What is going on around this our Ondo State, and what is happening within our environment here, and we say we should be here so we can make the settlement between our government and everybody.
The Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Special Duties and Strategy, Doyin Odebawale, urged the operators to remain peaceful while voicing their concerns. He said the people's interests will prevail over undue politicking and reassured them of the governor's commitment to the development of the state.
The House of Assembly, had decided to proclaim somebody as the acting governor. So that was what they had. And because of the working relationship that exists, that has been existing between us, they reached out to us. They were going to go out to protest.
Well, we tried to reach out to the camp of the governor, but the invitation was actually turned down. But joining us to discuss this matter is Public Affairs Analyst Femi Lawson. Thank you for joining us. Well, talking about the resolution read out by Speaker of the Ondo State House of Assembly and him skipping skipping that resolution that talked about the deputy governor being asked to sign an undated resignation letter and submit it to the president. What do you think about that? Mr. Lawson, kindly unmute your device.
No, thank you for having me.
Yes, glad to have you, Mr. Lawson. Yes, please, I can hear you. What's your reaction to that point about the Speaker of the Ondo State House of Assembly skipping the resolution about Mr. Ayedatiwa signing an undated letter?
It is deliberate. It is deliberate. It is deliberate because it is not the first time that statements have been made, issues have been presented falsely in Ondo State over the last 7 months by those who purportedly are working to protect the interest of our governor, who unfortunately is ailing, that is Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. And that is not the first time. I can tell you boldly that this is no longer about the Ondo State House of Assembly, because as I speak with you, there are not less than 12 honorable men who are members of the Assembly who are opposed to this shenanigan being undertaken by the Speaker of the Ondo State Assembly, who is being used by non-state actors who are presently in control of government in Ondo State. And if you look at the content of that resolution, you can imagine how pedestrian some of the details sound, especially when you look at resolutions which stated that it was agreed that there should be no dissolution of the state ESCO, there should be no dissolution of the state party leadership, there should be no dissolution of the leadership of the assembly. And you want to ask yourself that if it was agreed that Mr. Ayedatiwa should remain as the deputy governor, where does the deputy governor in Nigeria derive the power to dissolve a state ESCO, derive the power to dissolve the leadership of a political party, not just another political party, that's where the president belongs, and of course, among other issues, including the House of Assembly. Has there been any time that the governor, no matter how powerful, openly appoint or dissolve the leadership of any state assembly? What Mr. Oladije and his group, who are still being used against the people of Ondo State, have demonstrated is insincerity. And the painful part of this, if I must tell you, is that they've exhausted the usage of the name of Governor Akeredolu to deceive and exploit the people of Ondo State. Now, they want to capitalize on the privilege given to them by President Bola Tinubu to bring them together as party members to intervene in the Ondo political crisis. So they are exploiting the opportunity of having met President Tinubu, who intervened as a leader of their political party, now to further deceive the people of Ondo State. Mr. Oladiji has demonstrated that he cannot be trusted, and that is why a state assembly, the state of Adekunle Ajashi, the state of Baba Ruben Fasholoti, will come out with such a resolution which does not present.
Mr. Lawson, yes. In this matter, one would have thought that, an end would come to it, considering the intervention of the president. But it does appear to be a situation of the more you see, the less. In all sincerity, the more you look, the less you see. But then, my concern is, where does this leave the people of Ondo State, really?
Yeah, before getting to where it leaves the people of Ondo State, you see, in all sincerity, between the day that meeting was held and Monday, the tension in the Ondo State, which has been generated over the last couple of months, became so lessened to the extent that people were anxious of looking forward to a progressive Ondo State, a state that is going to move forward from the intervention of the president. Because people of Ondo State, remember, that is the only state in the whole of the Southwest that turned out, the largest percentage of vote for President Tinubu.
Well, Olufemi Lawson there talking about the situation in Ondo State and expressing to us his opinions about what is actually going on. We began from the resolution. Okay, Mr. Lawson is back.
For the people of Ondo State, for the people of Ondo State, we are at the tipping point because the people of Ondo State have tolerated the excesses of these political actors who think they can continually hold the state hostage to the extent of defying the intervention of the president and commander-in-chief, who is also the leader of their party. So as we speak, the tension which was down by the intervention of Mr. President between that last weekend and Monday has arisen. Whoever is in Oyo State today will tell you what the atmosphere has been between yesterday that this House of Assembly sat. And ask yourself, why would that be the main focus of the sitting of an assembly that has refused to sit to address the fundamental issues affecting the people of Oyo State?
But Mr. Lawson,
decision yesterday has regenerated tension. Yeah.
Yes, let's talk about solutions, because it does appear that the challenge that Mr. Ayedatiwa is having is that he's being tagged as a traitor by some people. So what political solution would you recommend?
Well, the party and stakeholders can continue to explore political solutions, but we must not at any time elevate political solutions to constitutional provisions. In the situation in Oyo State is a constitutional matter. We have a governor that is practically incapacitated, that is not available, that is invisible. And the law is very clear about this, that the next in rank will take over in acting capacity, that is the deputy governor. And that was part of the reasons why Mr. President called the meeting of stakeholders to profile solution. Mr. President didn't call them because they were seen on the street fighting or beating themselves. It is for Oyo State to have leadership. Because as I speak with you, there's no leadership in Oyo State. The people in charge of governance in Oyo State are non-state actors who are not elected, who don't occupy executive positions, but are just holding the state hostage, exploiting the ill health of Governor Akeredolu. So in moving forward, the people of Oyo State are now determined, more than ever, to take the bull by the horn. But I will also want to
Mr. Lawson, you have 30 seconds.
Stakeholders, including the media, the media and the assembly must realize the need for constitutionality in the matter and return Oyo State to the path of the constitutionality and proclaim an acting governor for Oyo State.
Public
if
Affairs.
Mr. Akeredolu cannot resume or resign.
Public Affairs Analyst Femi Lawson, thank you for joining us on the program.
My pleasure.